I'm going to call this regular meeting to order, and I will take a motion to go into executive session to discuss a tentative agreement with the RHA Coalition Unit, MOAs with the RHA Coalition Unit Bus Drivers Chapter, and Facilities and Mechanics Chapter, and the Superintendent's year-end evaluation and contract. I have Anne Marie, second by Nikki. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we're in executive session. We'll move down the hall. Reconvene this meeting, and if all those that are willing and able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. We'll start with some introductions. I'm Don McBride, Board President, and to my right,
Hello, Anne-Marie Straczynski, Board Vice President.
Dolores Tellerico, Acting District Clerk.
Good evening, Jennifer Laird.
Good evening, May Abdullah, Board Member.
Good evening, Doug Rivers, Board Member.
Good evening, Nelena Salm, Assistant. Good evening, Nelena Salm, Assistant Superintendent of Student and Family Services.
Hi, Andy Whitmore, Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Operations.
Good evening, Pat McHugh, Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources.
Hello, James O'Brien, Board Member.
Good evening, Nikki LaPlaca, Board Member.
George DeMarto, Attorney for the District.
Bo Wright, Superintendent of Schools.
all right, this brings us to agenda review. Are there any changes or additions to our agenda?
Can you make sure you're speaking right into the mic? I'm having trouble with the fans hearing you.
What did she say?
Speak right into your mic, please.
That's for everybody, because I went, oh, what did she say? So that's a very good reminder. Get as close to your mic as you can, because it's hard to hear on the edge. We got some fans trying to circulate some air, so that would be helpful for everyone. All right. Being no additions to our agenda, are there any announcements? Seeing none, this brings us to our student representative report. Unfortunately, tonight Ariana had us out there. She can introduce herself and give her report. Thank you.
Hello, Ariana McKnight, Student Council Board Representative. There is a fundraiser this Thursday for the class of 2022 at Five Guys. Also, juniors and seniors are selling tickets for the respective prom and ball events. Student Council is partnering with the Diversity Club and African American Leadership League to try and get students to attend the virtual Rock 2 Change Summit tomorrow. However, it has been difficult to get students to commit to coming in on a Wednesday, and we do not know yet who will attend. This is a summit on race and inclusion that is held twice a year, but was affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. Student Council is holding officer elections for next year. Students who are interested are currently getting petitions signed to show student and teacher support for their candidacy. They will begin the campaign on June 2nd. That is all for the student report. Thank you.
Thanks, Ariana. All right, this brings us to our public forum. This is for items that are not on the agenda. I have quite a few cards this evening, so we're going to try and stick to our 3 minutes for each speaker. If you have an item that you want to speak to that is on the agenda, we'll wait until that time in our agenda. The first card that I have is Kevin Yost. Can you come right up? You can just stand at that microphone, state your name and your address for the record, please.
Kevin Yost, 1474 Middle Road, Town of Henrietta. Good evening. Just share some ideas for the future of the grounds of the back high school athletic fields and the Good Shepherd campus that now will be connected to it. I feel that I know right now they're thinking about having a baseball field on the former rectangular sports field on the Good Shepherd campus, and then softball field on the high school campus backgrounds, and I feel they should be reversed, a softball field on Good Shepherd former rectangular field, and then baseball in the back fields of the high school, simply because the dimensions of the softball are more conducive with the current dimensions of the old rectangular field on Good Shepherd, and the dimensions of the baseball field more conducive to the dimensions on the back high school fields. And I know that you're considering moving the playground on the Good Shepherd campus. Has been there since it was a church, and due to driveway going through it between near the high school stadium and where the baseball, softball field used to be, and then out the East Henry Road where the current driveway is coming into the Good Shepherd parking lot. And I feel that the old Good Shepherd Chapel and its stairways down North Neck's restroom and confessionals need to be demolished, and then the playground moved at that site once, and there's grass planted there. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. All right. Okay, most of these cards indicate that they want to speak regarding the Director of Music and Visual Arts. That item is going to come up during the superintendent's report. I have one card that does not, okay, I see it now. It indicates it's an agenda item. So I will come back to these cards during that portion of the agenda, which is regarding the music position, which will be during the superintendent's report. Does everybody follow me on that? Okay. Is there anyone else that wants to speak regarding an item that is not on the agenda? Sheila, come on up. I'm sorry. I did see your card. Thank you.
Sheila Buck, 2071 Harris Road, Penfield, New York, 14526. President, RHEA Teachers and Music Teacher. I would like to say on behalf of all the members of the RHEA Teachers Chapter, we are proud to welcome back Mr. Rivers to the board. Also, because I am involved with the high school musical, I am unable to stay for the agenda time when the superintendent will give his report, as I have to return to rehearsal. So I would like to say, so that all board members know, that music teachers in Rush-Henrietta are extremely concerned about the state of the music program, and we are extremely concerned about a possible teacher leader position which would not have this strong support as a dedicated director of music and visual arts would. I know many of my colleagues will help you understand better what a director of music and visual arts has done for our program, but as a longtime employee of 25 years in this district, I can say that one of the reasons that I decided to tender my resignation is because I am extremely frustrated, unhappy, and find it impossible to believe that I have the energy to rebuild a program that was once the shining star of this program in this school district. It's in your hands to right that ship. There's been federal money that has been dedicated to school districts to right the wrongs that happened with COVID. This was a COVID-related elimination. And $12 million, out of $12 million, it surely seems like we could find some money to restore a program that has been so important to this district. This is in the hands of the Board of Education. You have the ability to right this wrong. There can be no excuses. There can be no other reason except to say this is what needs to be done for the children of Rush-Henrietta. We can't run a program in 10 schools with 25 music teachers, 20 art teachers. We can't run that program by the seat of our pants. That's not how we became excellence. That's not how we became a Grammy Award-winning school for 10 years or more. That's not how it happens. It doesn't happen by accident. It happens by planning. It happens by careful, thoughtful work on the part of the professionals in this district. And this is in your hands. $12 million was given from the federal government to school districts for COVID-related things. This is a COVID-related closure. You eliminated this position because of the fears of what was going to happen to the budget from the state last year. That was why that position was eliminated. It wasn't eliminated because it wasn't unnecessary. It was eliminated because of some financial worries. Those worries are gone, and it's in your hands. If you want this music program to continue, leadership is needed, because this is not a program where I run over from the elementary school and I run over to the high school and talk to the person and we all figure out what we're going to do. That's not how this program works. We need your help. Please. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else for an item that is not on the agenda? All right. I will hold on to these till we get to that place. This brings us to consent agenda items for routine matters. This is the action pertaining to the award of bids, pertaining to the Finance and Audit Committee minutes, action pertaining to the payment of refund of taxes in the town of Henrietta, acceptance of the high school tent rental, CSE, CPSE recommendations, and actions pertaining to the Board of Education election results. I'll take a motion to accept. Mrs. LaPlaca. Second, Ms. Adul. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. This brings us to personnel actions. I'm going to pull that up because my understanding. Do you need to abstain?
I don't need to abstain, but I need to let the record state that I'm related to Rosetta LaPlaca on number 6.
Okay. So she's just. I can't hear you. Let me just double check on that. George?
I'm sorry.
She wants to speak to regarding a consent agenda item.
She wants to speak about a consent agenda item.
Okay. Come here, please, to the microphone.
Good evening, Rachel Sherman, 15 Glenacre. And now that I am a board member-elect, I want to say that I look forward to working with this board and this administration. I'm reaching out to each and every one of you. I would love to build a personal relationship and get to know you personally. I would love for you to get to know me personally as well. And I have in my sights the single objective of doing what is best for the students and community that we serve Rush-Henrietta. And it's with that spirit that I look forward to joining the board in July. And I hope that you will accept my invitation when, there's more of you than there are of me, so I will be going slowly through my invitation list, but I hope you will accept my invitation to start to get to know one another. Thank you very much.
And Mrs. Sherman, we also have an orientation process, so that will come in the near future. Right now, we're taking a moment or two to step back to regroup, and then we'll be making contact with you and Mr. Adair to also bring in an orientation onboarding process.
I look forward to it. Thank you.
Back to the personnel actions. Mrs. LaPlaca stated she had a relationship with
Rosetta LaPlaca on number 6 of the personnel items.
Will you be abstaining on that?
I don't need to abstain.
Okay, thank you. So I will take a motion to accept the personnel actions. Mrs. Laird, I can just see you. Second? Mrs. Straczynski? Any more discussion regarding the personnel actions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. All right, this brings us to item 9, the coalition contract agreement. And I'm looking for a motion to accept the ratification of the REGA coalition unit contract. Mrs. LaPlaca. Second. Mr. O'Brien. Any questions, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. This brings us to memorandums of agreement. We have 10A, action pertaining to the approval of MOA with the RHA Coalition Unit Bus Drivers Chapter regarding voluntary salary changes for employees who receive Social Security income benefits. I'll take a motion to accept. Ms. Abdullah and Mrs. Straczynski. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Brings us to 10B, the action pertaining to the approval of MOA with the RHA Facilities and Mechanics Chapter, adjusting criteria for unpaid leaves of absence due to the COVID-19 pandemic. I'll take a motion to accept. Mrs. Laird?
Yes.
Mrs. Abdullah? Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. This brings us to our workshop on the internal auditor's report. And just a reminder to our audience that we're going to have our workshop. The presenter is going to share our information when the board will have their opportunity to ask any questions. After that time, once the board is finished, we would entertain questions. Any comments should be directed to the president, not to individual staff. And we'll have you raise your hand when we get to the end of the presentation. All right, I think Mr. Whitmore is going to... Okay.
Each year, the state mandates that every school district go through an internal audit, and that's a little bit different than our external audit. Mangle Metzger Bar does our external audit, which basically looks at our financial statements to make sure they're properly stated. The internal audit is a risk assessment of our overall process controls. So a different CPA firm does that, EFPR, and what they're looking at is all of our processes and controls to ensure that there are proper controls throughout our processes. So I'm pleased to report we did receive a good report. There were 3 recommendations. 2 of them were just awareness, and one was a recommendation on technology. But overall, the auditor said that we continue to maintain strong internal controls. They do provide a risk matrix in the report. You may have seen it. And there are some areas that they rate moderate rather than low. And the auditor assured the committee it's not because the controls are lacking, but it's because those processes inherently carry more risk, such as payroll, because of the dollars that flow through them. There were 3 recommendations. One was regarding budget uncertainty. As we know, a year ago, when the pandemic was hitting, state finances looked pretty dire. And then this year, when we received the governor's budget, it looked like state aid would be flat. And then we ended up getting significant state aid increases as well as the federal stimulus funding. So the auditor said, just make sure that the district continues to monitor these things, which we have been. The second comment was food services, just an awareness. Due to the pandemic closure, food service operations across the state have seen significant losses. Participation levels have fallen sharply. And not just in New York, but across the country, which does drive losses. So typically, our school lunch program, food services, does get a general fund subsidy in order to maintain affordable lunches. But last year and probably again this year, we'll need some incremental subsidy because of the low participation. Next year, we're all very hopeful schools are fully reopened, and the good news is the free meals for everybody will continue next year, so we're very hopeful that participation will either meet or exceed prior participation levels, so it gets back on firm financial feet. Then the last recommendation had to do with the technology department. Because of the ransomware attacks that are going on around the country, they're typically initiated through phishing attempts. And even though the district does put out periodic reminders to its employees to look at the phishing attempts, what the auditor recommended was to do basically test phishing emails to see how people are complying, to ensure that our education is adequate, our awareness is adequate. And so our technology department will initiate that process in the fall. So that was a summary of the audit report and the audit committee review. Any questions or comments?
Nope, looks like no one has questions. Pretty straightforward, and these audit reports are getting better and better.
We like that.
Yeah, we do. All right, so I have to ask for a motion for the approval of the internal audit risk assessment and corrective action plan. Ms. LaPlaca, second by Mr. Rivers. Any other discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. This brings us to item 12, our saved legislation documents review. I am going to turn it over to Tim.
Nirlana Anselm, our Assistant Superintendent for Student and Family Services, is going to walk us through these documents.
So on a yearly basis, we bring these documents to you when we work with committees, and we usually give you the pages and also the changes, the pages where the changes occur. But this year, I wanted you to know that last year on our improvement plan prior to the pandemic, we said we really wanted to take a great amount of time this year to really look at the code of conduct. Why? Because over the last 4 years, we have started implementing the work of restorative languages. We started our district priority around equity and inclusivity, and we really wanted to bring a group of people from all walks of life in the district, who are part of the district, to really take a look at the parts of the code of conduct so that we can start making some of these changes. So the reason why we're bringing it to you early is because within the code of conduct, because we had a group of individuals across the district who came together to make some refinement to languages, we also took into consideration as some of the NISBA language that they had recommended for districts who are implementing restorative practices. We made some significant, substantive changes based on all of that feedback. So I'm really proud of the work that was done. We met from February 23rd through April 20th. And in a year where we all have a lot on our plates, we had 22 individuals who participated in this process, including teachers, social workers, coordinators, directors, APs, principals, and of course, our students and board members. So we had Anne Marie, who was a part of that, and she can speak a little bit about the process. So because of all of the great feedback and of every individual talking about some of the refinement to the language, it let us know that our equity and inclusivity priority is taking root, because everyone who was at the table, that was some of the lens that they were looking at this code of conduct through. So because of that, we wanted to get it into your hands. We have given you the entire code of conduct, and you will see all of the language changes are in red, things that we are asking to be removed or strike through. We went through and did the same thing with the district safety plan. It is now in the hands of the District Safety Committee as well. It's not as substantive, there's no substantive changes, but there are some updates that needed to be made. So we also gave you the entire document, because when you see the entire document, then you can read it through that lens, then it makes sense. And in addition, with our attendance policy, we added some additional language to our attendance policy this year because of the remote learning, especially on Wednesdays when we were on asynchronous days. Our hope is that we will not be on asynchronous days next year, so for that reason, you will not see that added language, so we left the code of conduct the same, aside from just adding some of the quarantine absent, quarantine present, et cetera, in there. That's the only change that you will see. We wanted to get it into your hands, that way we have enough time to give the community a chance to see some of the changes as well, to give us additional feedback, so that by the time July 1st rolls around, there's a lot of other pieces that we have to put together, do the code of conduct summary, et cetera, so that we can get it into the hands of parents really early on. So again, I can't say enough about that group of the 22 members of the Code of Conduct Committee. They really were thoughtful in the feedback they provided us. And I hope that you will see languages around restorative practice, social emotional learning, and also some of the equity work that we have embedded in to the district in the last 4 years.
Some really fantastic changes within that document. You can tell there was some good work happening. My question will be that when we accept it, will we need to look at some of our policies then to make sure they align?
That is definitely one thing that we've been working on, so every time my brother will send a policy for review, those are the things that we also look through. So we have been looking through these things, and last year we were supposed to make some of the changes here, so a lot of these things reflect that. But just know, as the policies, we continue to review them, we will also make those updates as well, making sure that both are on the same page.
Right. So you don't need action from us this evening, you just, for us to review questions.
Correct. And there's a period of time, too, that we have to give before we can take action and adopt them. And that's why we wanted to get it early, because we need, since there are substantive changes, we need your feedback, and we need that action by the end of by the end of June. That way we can do what we need to do, like on June 22nd, for you to take action, so that we can move towards the next steps in terms of updating this code of conduct, all of the 3 SAVE legislation documents, and then the 3 trifold summary for parents.
Great. Does anyone have any questions at this moment for Nerland?
I just had a comment about when I read the code of conduct, you can tell how thoughtful the process and how every word was chosen to reflect the expectations for everyone, not just students. And there is a feeling of empowering to do the right thing. There's no, because of consequences, and that's very obvious, and I really appreciated that. So, great job.
Thank you.
Do you have anything to add, Superintendent?
I just want to commend Ms. Anselm, but also the entire team of people that were a part of revising that code of conduct. I think the work is outstanding, and I think it's going to be a significant step forward in moving us ahead in the area of equity and inclusion as a district, so thank you.
You have anything else to add, or you?
No, maybe Anne Marie, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about the process, because you were part of the process. And it is important that people see that we all are part of this.
Well, I was just really impressed with everyone that was on that committee, and especially with the students. It was amazing for me to hear students' opinions and how well thought out they were, and I just really appreciated everyone's participation. I couldn't get over how well everyone worked together. I really enjoyed that. You did a great job with that group, Nolan.
Great. Sounds like a model for future work.
It really was. They did a really nice job.
Great. Anybody else? Please come here to the microphone. State your name and address, please, for the record. Thank you.
My name is Regan Howlett, 15 Sweet Pea Drive. And
Willow Howlett.
I'm sorry, I cannot hear.
My name is
Can we turn something up? I mean, I'll even turn the fans off. I can't hear. I'm sorry, I can't.
I'm Regan, and this is my daughter Willow. And we just wanted to comment on the dress code. We are very excited for the change, the code of conduct, but especially the dress code. I do just want to bring it to your attention, though, that there are students currently being harmed by this policy right now. I know we only have a few weeks left of school, but there is the current policy as it stands, and is why it's been changed, is inequitable, it's gender biased, and it is harmful to the current students. And you have teachers currently enacting this policy that is putting shame on especially young girls' bodies. This has happened to my daughter. And my ask is that can we make changes any sooner so that kids are not being body shamed and experiencing gender bias for the rest of the school year, especially with this very hot weather. Do you want to say anything? Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
I am aware of that issue. That is something that I've been working on. I know the family, we've talked on the phone, and so give us the opportunity to work on this issue behind the scenes, because we are on it.
Okay.
I just had one more thing, I'm sorry. My daughter is currently being threatened with suspension and academic record, things going on her academic record. And I find that very problematic, and that this is an issue that maybe cannot wait till next year. Thank you.
All right. Anything else on our SAVE legislation documents? This will bring us to our district policy regulation exhibits, first read. Our usual course of action is I will call out the number of the policy or regulation. If there's something that needs to be discussed, raise your hand and holler out, because I can't always see the end of the table. All right. So the first policy is 8411. And these have recently gone to policy committee. These were policies that we saw at our annual or triannual review, went to policy, are coming back with some corrections, changes. All right. 8411-R. I'm scrolling. I don't have paper copies, so I'm scrolling. 8414.5-R. All right. 8520.1 is being deleted. 8635. 8635-R. You can see with that one, it's pretty much a full rewrite with definitions and, all right. 9211. 9211-R. 9230. 9231. 9260-R. 9301. 9645. 9700. 4325.1. 9325.1-R. And that should complete our first read of these policies. All right, then we'll come back for second read. This brings us to the superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you. There were two items that were submitted as written reports, one being the capital project communication plan. If you'll remember at our last meeting, we discussed some possibilities for future capital projects related to the artificial turf project, the access road, some LED lighting in some of our auditoriums. It is a project that was ready to be put on for consideration last year prior to the pandemic. If you remember, we had done thought exchanges around that project. We did some presentations and a community forum, received a lot of feedback, but at the time that we were going to put it out to the community for consideration, we just felt like it wasn't the right time as the pandemic was just beginning. The feedback that we received at that point in time leading up to our consideration for putting it out to the community was people were supportive of the project, but that they didn't want that project to get moved ahead of routine maintenance if it was going to be an either-or scenario. In other words, if it came down to, getting artificial turf or a school building getting a roof, they wanted the school building to get the roof, so to speak. We are no longer in that position where it's either or, where if that project goes into the hopper, it would squeeze out other projects. So we feel comfortable moving that forward. If you read through our proposal, the amount of feedback that we would be seeking relating to all those other project components that were ready to go out to the community for a vote last year would be limited. But where we do think we need to get significant feedback is related to some of the proposals that we talked about related to the Good Shepherd building and where we are going to be housing programs in the future. So if you read through, we are proposing doing a thought exchange specific to what we would be doing or potentially proposing here at the Webster Learning Center, out at Good Shepherd, and you'll notice that there is a proposal to meet with student focus groups and staff focus groups in this building and at Good Shepherd. We would be doing those meetings and getting that feedback this month, with the idea being that we would be able to have some information to present to you in the summer. Once the school year ends, it's difficult to get a hold of people. You don't have kids in buildings, and many of our staff members are on summer vacation. So we're going to try to get as much feedback as we can in these few weeks prior to the end of the school year. And then we'll go from there. The timeline, whatever is proposed, if we are going to put up a new capital project, then we would be looking at sometime probably in the winter of the upcoming school year. So if you're supportive of what we're proposing in terms of gathering feedback, then we will plan to get started scheduling meetings and creating thought exchanges. And if you have any suggestions for enhancing our proposal, then we are open to that as well.
Well, we definitely need feedback from the folks that it would most effect in the buildings, our staff and our students in both of those buildings. Absolutely need their feedback. We do have a lot of good information, I think, already about athletic fields. We know where our athletics families stand. We know we need to do something. How we combine it in a project, I think will be determined about what we get in our feedback regarding the Good Shepherd building and this building. So absolutely, we need the feedback. Any other thoughts?
I didn't really hear you too much, but you said something about getting more feedback?
Yeah, absolutely, we need to get the feedback from the students and the staff that are affected in these two buildings, just see what their thoughts are. I mean, they have some other thoughts about what they need in a building too, so, things that we may have not have thought of, so we need that feedback. We already have a lot of information regarding the athletic fields from our sports booster families or athletic families. We know there's a need, we know we need to do something. And we need to have more information so we can decide how we combine this information for a vote from our community. So, Mr. Rivers, I see you.
Yeah, sorry. Is there any thought about including the town in that process? Because I know that they just purchased, the house next door?
The church building and the farmhouse.
Because there's a parking agreement or something? That's what's going through my head is.
I don't know if we really need to do that, because they know that we've had that conversation that we're looking to do certain things with the property. They're aware that we're going to be making some changes. The conversation's been had that, once we do what we need to do or get going with it, we're going to work cooperatively about how we utilize parking lot, how we work together. So we've had an initial conversation.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, just to add to that, we'll definitely, when it comes to the access road, we'll definitely have to work closely with the town.
Absolutely. So just a second, you don't need anything else from the board members, just that affirmation?
Yeah, just if generally speaking, you are supportive of our communication plan, then we'll get started on it. Like I said, we want to get as much feedback as we can before everybody breaks for summer vacation. Did you have a question?
I'm just curious about the feedback you're seeking. Sorry.
Microphone.
The feedback you're seeking from staff and students at the Webster Building. Are you going to be asking them or giving them the option of moving back to the high school? Or I'm just curious, what exactly are we going to be asking them?
Yeah, we're going to be having we're going to share with them some of the options that have been discussed and hear what they have to say related to those options. Similarly to the conversations that we've had here at this table, gathering feedback and getting perspectives and for the folks that sort of live here in this building every day, whether you're a student or a staff member, you more than likely view it very differently than we may at district office. So that would be the idea, is to select smaller groups of students and get feedback, and then also do the same with staff for the people that would be directly impacted by whatever is decided. But then also to have a thought exchange actually is a really effective way to gather feedback in a situation like this too, in a more broad-based way. So we'll craft a thought exchange as well, and that will give folks outside of these buildings and these programs the opportunity to contribute feedback as well, and also to rate others' thoughts. We've had a lot of success gathering information through the exchanges.
Okay. Everybody has their questions? All right, Mr. Sherman. I see.
Sorry, I thought I saw another hand, didn't want to take up the airspace. So first I have a question. Is there any allocation of federal dollars in any of these proposals?
There could be. It just depends on what the proposal becomes, because we can only use our dollars for certain things. So after we get our information and we figure out what we're going to do, then we'll look at that secondary piece of those federal dollars.
Okay, when it comes to the COVID-related federal dollars, I would really like to encourage the board to take a very broad view and to, in terms of soliciting ideas and feedback for that. There are, as you all are well aware, many, many pandemic-related concerns and challenges that have come up with respect to learning loss and social emotional needs, and I would very much like to make sure that there is a process for the community that's been most affected by those losses and related to have their voice heard in that process before dollars are allocated to various projects. And the other thing is, I just would like people to have some pause around the thought exchanges. The thought exchanges, I called the company to understand how thought exchange works. I understand, I don't know what we pay for it, but, it can be $12,000 for a license. And it really is subject to a first mover advantage and to special interest capture. And really, in my view, it's no better than, putting out a question on Facebook and asking people to just respond. It is not really a systematic, organized, thoughtful way of obtaining community feedback. So I would encourage you to consider things like public meetings, open forums, inviting people to, listening sessions, as well as a more scientific survey of the people who are affected most by that. Thank you.
Is there anybody else with a hand up? All right. I'll turn it back to you.
Okay. All right, so that was the first item that was submitted as a written report. The second item relates to the reason that many of the people are here in the audience tonight, and that is the music department support proposal. If you look at the proposal, we are in agreement that we do want to add capacity in the area of music. However, our proposal calls for a lead teacher position, which would be stipended, half-time release. We do view this as a way to not only add capacity, but to add teacher voice. We are not recommending to reinstate the director position at this time. However, I think within the conversation around whether or not we're going to add a director of music and art again, I think within that conversation, we have to look at the other director position which was eliminated last spring, and that is a director position that was centered around student management and school safety and is every bit as important. And so as we consider these things, I just want to bring that up because as many people are here advocating to reinstate the director position that oversees music and the arts, there are many people coming to me behind the scenes advocating on behalf of this other position, which has been focused almost entirely around school safety. And I think it's important to bring that up. So again, I think that what we're proposing is an intermediate step which will help that department. And certainly we're open to your feedback. This is not something tonight where we're looking for you to act on it, but we do need to know if we're headed in the right direction. If we're not, then we'll go back to the drawing board. And so I know that there are a lot of folks who have opinions regarding this matter.
Shall we have board discussion, then I'll allow for the folks that are here in the audience. I know there were some folks that had some questions here at the table, so who wants to ask first, and then we'll go from there. All right, Doug?
So when we look at the director position, I know we were looking at costs when the elimination took place. With this stipend, what's the cost of that? And then the second part, how much savings is there actually if you reinstate the director versus doing it this way?
Do you want to speak to that, Andy?
Depending how we go, a stipend is much, much cheaper than a full-time director position, so there's probably a $100,000 difference in the cost.
I'm sorry, what was that? I didn't hear you.
About $100,000.
It's probably up to about a $100,000 difference in the cost between a full-time director and the lead teacher position, so.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Would there be any other personnel-related costs that you anticipate other than the stipend?
No, we have lead teachers in our contract, and we would just need to negotiate the terms and responsibilities with the Teachers Association, as well as what would be a fair stipend.
Would the person who's assigned to this be still teaching full-time their regular music assignments, or?
No, I think in order the person would have to have time. So more than likely what we would do is we would look to free them up half-time. So they'd probably have half of a teaching load, free them up half-time, and then be stipended.
Right, the idea would be you'd want to give them time during the workday to get around to the buildings to work with other teachers and other staff. And also, you'd want to supplement that with a stipend as well, because there would be, there'd be a pretty significant commitment of time in the evenings and other out of the workday times, organizing some of the solo festivals, organizing supervision around concerts, a lot of the duties that are outlined in the proposal that was submitted with the superintendent's written report.
Other board questions? I'm sorry.
So if you did a lead teacher scenario, you'd have to hire a substitute to cover the classes? And, I mean, let's just say the substitute comes at Building B in the morning, so the afternoon kids would have a sub, and is that consistent? Is that?
Yes, if we did a release time as part of this, in addition to a stipend, then that would be the additional personnel cost, would be the cost of a substitute, assuming that, next year we're going to need the same amount of staffing that we currently have.
And is it feasible to get a certified music teacher?
Yes, the pool is very good now. And as a matter of fact, we have a couple of openings right now that we're going to be interviewing for next week, and the pool is quite strong. We actually, in the last several years, have had to hire various part-time music teachers because of just the way the schedule worked out and different ensemble lessons and so forth. And it's been a pretty good pool, because what we find is there are people out there that don't want to teach full-time, that maybe are involved in performance or teaching at the post-secondary level, and so a part-time position actually suits their needs.
Okay, thank you.
Any others? I'm looking at this lead music teacher position going, that's a heck of a lot of work for somebody to do half-time and teach half-time the rest of the time. I'm glad you brought up the director of student management position, because my mind has been going back to both of them. And I know we did it for cost savings, but right now my heart is really in reinstating both of those positions. I'm I think there's a lot of work in both those positions that really needs to have the attention to support our staff and get the work done. That's where my heart is.
I know I was struggling looking at this with the amount of work and doing it half-time. It's a lot. And art is kind of forgotten about in this proposal. I know we've talked about it offline about it, but I struggle with that piece where art's kind of pushed off. It's not a whole anymore. It's not the music and arts department. It's, okay, art's over here, music's over here. We are excellent at both, and they both deserve the amount of time and effort, not just music.
I would agree with everything they're both saying. I think there's a specialty to this, right? I think that sometimes the monetary component of this doesn't outweigh the capital, the human capital that's brought to the table. And I think we really need to think about the quality, the quantity, and that human capital that the cause brings to the table.
Any other comments from the board?
I'm sorry, go ahead, James.
No, please go ahead.
If we do look at the director of music and visual arts, we do need to look at the director of safety. Because that piece was spread out so thin amongst other people who already have a full-time job. I think Diane's very right in that. We do need to look at both pieces, not just the director of music and visual arts.
Yeah, I'll just say, there's a lot of difficult decisions that have had to be made over the last 12 to 15 months, both, in this group and in others. Speaking as not just a board member and not just a current parent in the district, but as a former president of the Rush-Henrietta Wind Ensemble from 1995 to 1996, I will say that, the elimination of the director of music and arts position never sat well with me. It felt like kind of a decision made in the fog of war. And so really kind of just agreeing with everything that's been said so far.
Yeah, I agree with what everyone said, and I really do think we need both positions back. Oh, sorry.
Can't hear
I do agree with what everyone said, and I do think we need both positions back. I mean, the music and art, we all know, we've all heard about that, and I think we all know it's important, but that safety piece, especially with what's happened with this pandemic and the emotional baggage that some of these kids are going to come back with, I really think we need that position reinstated as well.
Mrs. Laird, did I see you?
I think that we also need to look at the bigger picture too, because when my daughter had a singers meeting and my husband comes home and says, how come reconfiguration has played an effect in this? I also think we need to look at reconfiguration, because he is telling me that at the meeting he was at, that they're looking at how this has affected kids playing music. And I mean, I think it's such an important role that I also think that when we look at this position, we also need to look at the bigger picture as to how reconfiguration has affected our music program.
Right. Any other board members have comments before I open it up to comments from the audience? All right. That's if everybody still wants to talk. The first card I have, these were just handed to me, so I'm just going to take them in the order that I have them. Kiera Road. Are you still here?
Hi, good evening. I'm Kiera Rohde, a 7th grader in Berger Junior High School. On behalf of the other students in elementary, junior, and high school level in Rush-Henrietta District, I am here to ask for the reinstatement of our previous director, Donna Watts. I don't know her very well. I only met her 3 to 4 times, but I can sense her passion in arts and music by her willingness to share her talents and mentor her students. As a student in the district who is passionate about arts, I believe that we have the rights to be supported by our district and have the funds to help every student who is interested in arts and music to learn more and enhance their skills. We deserve to have the support of our district the way the other fields are supported, like, for example, sports. I reviewed the classes we have to take until high school, and if I'm being honest, I'm not satisfied with the curriculum that is offered here. I wish that you all would give enough funds for us arts and music students to pursue our dreams. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Scott Cannon, are you still here? There he is.
Thanks, Diane. How do I follow a student? I can't. Scott Cannon, 63 East Main Street, Clifton Springs, and high school band director. I'm a proud alumni of Rush-Henrietta, and I've had the pleasure of calling this home for the last 23 years of my career. I'm concerned, Mr. Wright, with the recommendation that's in writing because it doesn't show the things that you said verbally. It doesn't show the halftime release. It says that it's a stipended position providing to be completed outside of the workday. So I'm glad to hear, thank you, that it is going to lead that way. There are items on the job description that are art teacher related. NYSADA is the Arts Association. So are we talking about lead music teacher or lead music and art teacher? And then there's other items here that are already stipended positions, the Tri-M advisor, the coffee house that's provided by Spectrum, and the Bel Canto singers. So I think there's a little disconnect with what's happening in and around the district and what we think we need for the art position. I wanted to just bring one additional bit of information for the board, and that comes from the National Association for Music Education. And in order to provide what NAFME considers a quality, well-rounded education, they've developed opportunity to learn standards. And those standards, one of them says, one music educator in every district or school is designated as coordinator or administrator to provide leadership for the music program. This person is employed on a full-time basis for administration when the staff includes 25 or more music educators. The amount of administrative time is adjusted proportionally when the staff is smaller. Additional administrative is employed at a proportional rate when the staff is larger. You know, we tout that this is a best community of education. We've received the Grammy Award. We're a NISMA Presidential Citation Award school district. This is because of the leadership that has been in the director position for several years. You know, my colleagues that are sitting behind me, how many of them, me included, came to this district because there is someone who supported the arts and the art teachers exclusively and understood the role that we go through as teachers in order to better provide instruction to students. So I'd like to thank you for moving forward and recognizing this is a need. I'm not sure that it's far enough, though. I think reinstating the position is what is really important here. Thank you.
Thank you. Next card in the pile was Jill Pringle. Are you still here, Jill?
Good evening. Jill Pringle, 76 Wrights Parkway, Pittsford, 14534. I am a band teacher at Sherman Elementary School, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. I want to thank all the supportive comments that I've heard, and I've taught many of your children, and many of your children. So I've been in the district for 25 years, and when I started, you know, the music program was something everyone wanted to be a part of, and I've loved it. And I'm bringing my concerns as a 25-year veteran of Rush-Henrietta. Rush-Henrietta's high-quality arts programs were built on and necessitate a music and arts director position with a leader that specializes in the fine arts. Last year's removal of the director of music and art position has created a disconnect within the buildings and the specialty areas. We have band, orchestra, chorus, general music, and all the art programs. I don't see any of the high school or junior high teachers that teach band. So we need that cohesiveness from a leader that understands band and chorus and orchestra and general music and art as well. I believe a lead music teacher position, if it were a full-time TOSA of somebody that can devote all of their time, would be appropriate. I think a half-time position would have too much of a divide between teaching duties and doing that well, and whoever would be in that position would want to do it well, as I know my music colleagues and art colleagues. So as an instrumental teacher of the district for 25 years, I urge you to reinstate the position of Director of Music and Arts. Thank you.
Thank you. The next card I have is Jenny Hampson.
Good evening, Jenny Hampson, 16 Partridge Berry Way, West Henrietta. I'm concerned that for a district of our size to rely on a music teacher with a stipend to perform all the duties formerly performed by a director position, but without having a seat at the administrative table to be a voice for the music program is troubling. The list of responsibilities on this job description are extremely important to us who have children in the music department and to the future of the program. And it's hard to imagine that assigning them to someone as a stipend addition to their regular duties will not greatly affect the quality of the music program. I'm concerned that this will be a big hit to the program, which is such a huge bright spot in our district. The district likes to tout that it's been named 16 total times, 12 years straight as one of the best communities for music education. I would be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to express that my concern for this program, which has been such an important part of my children's education in Rush-Henrietta. The music teachers in this district are second to none. And in a year of such uncertainty, the amazing commitment to continuing remote lessons, participating in remote Solo Fest, and putting together creative projects to continue their music education has been a highlight in a dark year. And so I ask you to please consider reinstating the dedicated music and visual arts position and not to redirect these duties to someone with already a full plate so we can regain the focus of this incredible program and continue the tradition of music excellence in our district. Thank you.
The next card I have is Joan Barnes.
Hi, Joan Barnes, 144 West Combe Park, West Henrietta. I'm here tonight in favor of having not just a lead music teacher, but reinstating the position of Director of Music. First, I want to let you know how important music in the district is to my family. My son graduates this year. He has been in band since he was able to take the trumpet. My son didn't go out for a lot of sports or theater. He did band. When he hit a rough patch, band was one of the few things that kept him plugged into school. Sorry, Mr. Cannon. He has a skill that he has to enjoy for the rest of his life. Recently, our district was named by the National Association of Music Merchants as being the best community for music education. I would like to see our district continue that high caliber. Having a non-dedicated lead is counterproductive to a quality program. At best, this position won't have the teeth or the time to be as effective as a directorship. At worst, you are hiring somebody who will essentially be functioning as a music director, but will be paying them less, and I am disappointed the board would be doing that. I understand the board prides itself on keeping taxes down, that we have the lowest suburban taxes in the county. There is a fine line between getting a good value for your tax dollar and having an underfunded, substandard program that will not be competitive with other districts around us. By not having a director of music, you are crossing that line from good value to not appropriately supporting programs that make our district shine. Please reinstate the director of music. Thank you.
The next card I have is Carol Lamica.
I brought some reading materials, so I'm going to sit for a minute.
Homework.
Good evening, my name is Carol Lamica, 178 Chelsea Meadows Drive in West Henrietta. I have taught a number of your children up there, nieces, nephews, students who are here this evening. I don't think I've been in the district long enough yet to have taught grandchildren, but you know, I may not have all that information. I am speaking tonight because I was quite frankly shocked last year to learn the Director of Music and Visual Arts position had been eliminated. I am a vocal general music teacher who has been teaching so long in this district. This is my 30th year. I remember when there was a director of visual arts and a director of music. Bob Gillette was the director of visual arts, and Fred Weingarten was the director of music. Their office was housed at Roth, which was at that point still a junior high school. It had not turned into a middle school. And their secretary was Jan O'Connor. So that's going back into the early 90s. In 2003, my husband and I made the decision to move to Rush-Henrietta. I grew up in Webster. I was very active in the Webster music department, but I knew that in Rush-Henrietta there was a music department that was by far the best in Monroe County, and the visual arts department was a close second to the music. I'm a little more biased to the music. But I knew then my oldest daughter, Emily, was loving to sing, loved playing her trumpet, but also loved her drawing class that she took and got heavily into ceramics. So I felt, at least for Emily, not knowing what Allison and Joseph would be interested in because they were quite young yet, but I knew that we could feed that creative part of her personality, who she is, the fiber of who she is being in the music and in the arts. So I am very concerned about the direction the music program is headed in, and I do believe the Director of Music and Visual Arts should be reinstated. We have struggled through this year without a director who is knowledgeable in our content areas. We are lacking in someone who understands the curriculum needs of our department and is able to advocate and advance our content and curriculum, aligning them with the core art standards and the New York State standards. Don't get me wrong, Mark McMillan is a gem of a guy. He is a wonderful human being, but he's not a music educator and he is not an art educator, and this isn't his discipline, nor should we be expecting it to be his discipline. So I sat down and decided I would create a list. It is by no means a conclusive list, but it will give you an idea of what it entails in the day of a life of Donna Watts. So here is her to-do list. Drafting letters for Solo Fest, instrumental at the high school, instrumental at the junior high school. Solo Fest letters for vocal at the high school and junior high school, and instrumental letters for elementary Solo Fest. All county letters for instrumental and vocal at the elementary, junior high, and senior high school. District Music Festival letters. District Music Festival itself, finding a place for the district festival, finding a composer, finding time to schedule the composer to come in and communicate with all of us music educators, what are we looking for? Getting music, purchasing the music for all students who are involved, taking the time to make sure that we have buildings and grounds notified for parking, getting a sheriff to maintain the traffic, which is huge because the district vocal festival, actually the district band festival, all of our district music festivals are well attended by our community, not just parents and grandparents of students that are involved, but our community, because we are known to produce amazing music with our students, and we are fortunate to be able to have that opportunity to do that. Making sure that there is enough space and seating without exceeding fire codes. Make sure that there's a nurse on hand. Making sure that we have contacted interpreters so that interpreting can be taking place for our deaf community. That's just the district festivals alone, not to mention the various beginning of ensembles letters that have been written for 4 to 6 schools, Arts Alive, the congratulatory letters that are written and sent out, the beginning of the year instrumental meetings for those parents who are coming in and asking all sorts of questions, contracts for rental instruments, bidding for instruments, and acquiring them for inventory, keeping track of the inventory. And when I say keeping track of inventory, every lummy stick in every school is accounted for, as well as the huge instruments at the high school and the junior high school, the art supply that needs to be bid on and supplied, the kilns that aren't working that need to be up and working. These are things that Donna Watts did on just a yearly basis, and some of them on a weekly basis, because all of these things seem to fall in, well, the month of March at times. Advocating for field trips and participating in the field trips to the RPO for 3rd grade, 5th grade, the Memorial Art Gallery field trip that she promotes, she participates in, pursued opportunities for teachers to participate in ORF levels at the Eastman, the New York State Art Teachers Association, PEAK for 4th grade musicians and their teachers. That's parents, educators, and kids. They get together for a day, they experience music, the parents experience it with the children, and then they come together and have a performance at the end. And of course, all the ORF workshops, and as I told you, this is by no means an inclusive list of Donna's things to do. It's just what I could come up with and think of. Establishing connections with community by being an active member in RUMPA, by reaching out to the community for displaying artwork at the MLK celebration, the District Art Show, the Henrietta Public Library, Marketplace Mall, and the Webster Building, just to name a few. Attending concerts for 4th, 5th, and 6th grade between 2 buildings. We don't do our concerts as 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. There's a night per grade level at both schools, Sherman and Vollmer. The same thing with 7th and 8th and 9th grade concerts at Berger and Roth. She participates in those, or she attends and then comes back and always has feedback. You know, this went great. What made you choose this piece? There are conversations that she has with us that help teachers reflect on, why did I choose that piece? Is it somewhere here that's helping to meet one of the standards that I'm trying to achieve with my students this year? Is it part of my goal? What made me choose that piece of music? I'll tell you, we need the director of music and visual arts, because we need someone who can work with the staff across grade levels in both art and music and the ensembles. The ensembles seem to get lumped into that part of, well, we're music teachers. General music is its own, well, it's its own discipline. It gets its own part in our New York State standards. It's separate from the ensembles, which is also separate from the media arts, which is separate from the visual arts. We all have our own standards to meet. And Donna, or whoever were to be filling this Director of Music and Visual Arts position, can update our curriculum that helps us to align to make sure we are still meeting those standards across the board. I'm not sure if any of you have seen any of this, but I did bring some with me to share with you, so you can take a look at what promotes why are our students doing what they are doing? What is behind it? What is the teacher goal? I know I and many of my colleagues hang this in our classroom as just a reminder. I'm almost done. It is a brief reminder of our creating, our performing, presenting, or producing, if you are in the visual arts, our responding and our connecting strands that feeds the reason why we are teaching what we are teaching. And I can tell you, for the first time ever, because of a seed Donna planted with me about this producing in media arts, and I'm thinking, how am I going to do that? I'm a music teacher. A seed she planted and said, I think you can do this at this level with 6th grade. This year provided an opportunity for me to collaborate with the two art teachers at Vollmer, and we are producing stop motion animation using clay, which is called claymation, and the students are doing that in art, and in music, they are creating a soundtrack for what their stop-motion movie is. They're producing it. If Donna Watts hadn't planted that seed with me and had me take a look at how this could be done, I never would have even realized that we could be collaborating to make this happen. So thank you for giving me time, and I know I took too much. I am a chatty, Kathy, and I understand that. But if you would like to, just make sure when you are looking at these, there is a media arts, there is a visual arts, and there is a music. They are 3 separate looks at our standards, the New York State Learning Standards. I appreciate the time. Thank you for listening and being patient with me, and I hope you will reconsider in restating the Director of Music and Visual Arts position. Thank you.
Carol, do you want to bring those up here, and then we can pass them out when we leave, so we each have a copy?
Diane, can I ask a question before she leaves?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you for all the paper. I'm right here.
Sorry.
That's okay. One of the things that, I teach at Monterey Community College, and one of the things that our programs have is accreditation. So through some of the things that I've been listening to, is the program accredited?
No, it's at the elementary level, so it's in 6th grade.
But there's standards through the state that need to be met. So that's through the state. So then, in that, does it have, like for us at MCC, you have to have a content expert in order to fulfill that accreditation process? Is that the case or not for music or the arts?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what you're asking me. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
My nerves are taking over.
That's okay. I'm just trying to
like
understand, a part of getting state ed to approve the program. Is there that accreditation, I'm calling it, is there somebody that is required to be a content expert to oversee that whole thing, is what I was trying to get at?
No, our music programs don't need to be accredited, Doug, but we do have some teachers who go on from individually to receive master accreditation, but not the program itself.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's part of the district program that, it's a little different than the college.
Yeah, that's why I was asking it.
But that's a good question.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carol. And the last card I have is Marlene Henschel. Is Marlene still here? You can stand at that mic or sit, whatever you want.
Hi, sorry about that. There's a little bit of a lag because I'm watching this on YouTube so that I actually know what people are saying. I'm reading the captions. So there's about a 2 or 3 sentence lag. So I want to start off by saying, first of all, this is my first time I've ever been at a board meeting. And I can credit that to Rachel Sherman. She's the mother of one of my daughter's friends, and she suggested that I started to come maybe every once in a while. But I received an email from one of the music teachers saying that some people might want to write letters to support a music director. So a little bit about me. I am a deaf piano player and a piano teacher, and I'm a certified math teacher. But I have been staying home for the last 17 years to teach, not to teach, but to support my 6 children. My youngest is in 2nd grade, my oldest is in 12th. So I wrote an organized letter. I'm going to read the highlights of it. In 2007, my husband and I bought a house in Henrietta, and we didn't do any research on the school board. On the school district, pardon. We just looked at the taxes, how much houses cost, and we moved. Then we had a little son, and imagine my surprise when a friend of mine said, "Hey, your kid's going in the Rush-Henrietta School District. They have an awesome music program." And my husband and I are both musicians, and so I was thrilled. I was absolutely thrilled. Since then, I have absolutely loved the district. I've loved my town. I trust my district. I trust the school board. I've been very, very, very happy with our schools. I want to give a brief shout out to Art because I just want to say that even though I'm here in support of music, absolutely our art program is phenomenal. I look at my elementary kids over the years, and even my kids in elementary school are bringing home stuff that I just can't believe, and they're learning about artists, and I never learned that in my entire 12th grade. Okay, so I have just a couple of stories. I'm not behind the scenes, I don't know everything that's going on, but I have personal experience with budget cuts in music education. So I'm just going to start reading off here. I've experienced firsthand the budget cuts to my musical education. In 1994, I chose RIT over Gallaudet University because Gallaudet did not have a music program for deaf students, but NCID had a wonderful one. After my freshman year, 1 year, NCID cut its music program completely due to budget issues. I was devastated. We weren't completely kicked off campus, just no music for deaf people anymore. We were shuffled off to the old bowling alley at RIT, and with the ties cut from NCID, the program changed. From that point on, there was no longer anyone to tell NCID students that they could learn an instrument if they wanted to. It still bothers me. And to give them course credit for their effort. Even though I was never allowed to learn a band or orchestra instrument growing up due to my deafness. My mother was wise enough to purchase a piano. And with some difficulty, she found a teacher who was willing to teach me. I was 12 years old, and by my senior year, I was technically advanced. I finally learned how to play with expression when I took piano lessons my freshman year at NCID. And I never, ever, ever would have tried playing in a music group without the encouragement of Bob Mauer, the creator and head of the NCID program. So many deaf students were strongly impacted by that music program after being told all their lives that they couldn't play a musical instrument because they were deaf. That's baloney, by the way. That opportunity for deaf students at NCID is gone, and I'm pretty sure it will never return. Now, obviously, this is not such an extreme example, but it's just an illustration to show that negatively impacting music education negatively impacts the students. Now, fast forward to now, I have been very pleased with the music course offerings and the extracurricular groups in our district. 5 of my kids are learning viola, trombone, percussion, flute, and voice through the district. I can't wait to find out what my youngest daughter picks. My oldest daughter's involvement in orchestra, chorus, and dedicated voices have been without question the highlight of her junior high career. She's considering a possible career in music. I was absolutely amazed when she stepped outside her comfort zone to be in The Lion King at Roth last year. And I was heartbroken when the musical was dropped because of COVID. And she hasn't had the opportunity to be in a musical for her last year at Roth either, for the same reasons. I hope she will have the chance to try again next year at the high school. My son, my oldest son, who is a graduating senior and has been playing the trombone since the 4th grade, was considering quitting this year. Between an expected lack of performing opportunities, practices and lessons being greatly restricted, social distancing, and some classmates quitting because of COVID-related reasons, in my son's word, what's the point? We persuaded him to press on, and he stayed on. Today our music program is facing challenges. COVID has done harm, and the music and art directorship was cut. I don't believe that the district would ever cut the program completely, but the stories I have related show how negatively impacted music programs can negatively impact the students. I don't want the future musical education and opportunities of my 5 younger children to be anything less than it was pre-pandemic. We need an experienced musical director who will do whatever it takes to promote the musical education of our children and to cheer them on. I forgot to say my name. My name is Marlene Hedgel. I live at 146 Blackwell Lane.
Thank you, Marlene. All right. I do not have any other postcards. Okay, Mr. Kazakis.
Thank you. Sorry for the late entry, but I received I'm Jamie Kazakis, 7 Tall Acres Drive, Pittsford. I also teach at Roth Junior High School, and I received a email from a parent that she wanted to share, and she wasn't able to make it because she was at a track meet for one of her children. So this is from Emily Richardson. For the past 5 years, all 5 of my children have been in RH schools. This year, my oldest is a senior and is graduating. My youngest is in 4th grade and just finished her first year involved in the district orchestra program. I want her to be able to experience the same robust music program that my son was able to take advantage of all his years at RH. For that to happen, I strongly urge you restore the Director of Music and Arts Administrative position. Do I know all the ins and outs of what that entails? No, of course not. A lot of what Donna Watts did was behind the scenes, but what I do know is that under her leadership, the music program gained national recognition, and she made sure children received individual recognition for their participation and incremental accomplishments. I feel she provided continuity from school to school, which she did. We received countless letters keeping us informed of opportunities as well as congratulations for district art show and solo festival participation. She organized that district music festival that provided such a unique opportunity for musicians at each grade level to come together. Those festivals helped me see what was possible if my children kept going with their instruments and singing. I don't think there is anything to compare with those in any other subject or even sport. I'm sure there's much more that goes on behind the scenes that provides support for building level teachers and makes a cohesive program. Please do what you can do to ensure that our music program does not continue to lose positions and strength. Every teacher and administrator contributes to the success of this high-quality program. Thank you for your time. Again, that's Emily Richardson.
All right, thank you. I'll allow one more and then we need to, I have a hand way in the back, so I'm going to take, yep. It's not that I don't want to hear anybody else, it's just we need to still have stuff to continue on with our meeting.
Hello, my name is Karen Arbogast. I live at 51 Lysander Drive, Rochester, New York. I have 2 children who are very involved in both the music and art program at Rush-Henrietta. Anyone who thinks the music and art program can be met by a part-time position does not fully understand the vast scope of all that it takes to run a stellar music and arts program. So thank you to Mrs. Lamika for spelling it out in such great detail. So, of course, I ask for nothing less than the reinstatement of the music and visual arts teacher, but I ask for more as well. The director needs administrative support, so please consider reinstating her secretary as well. Amy Guino was very helpful to Rampa over the years, and I'm sure she was very helpful to Donna as well. So our teachers, our students, and our community deserve the reinstatement of this position. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. I'm going to turn it back over to the superintendent.
Well, I certainly appreciate the feedback from the folks that are here with us tonight and your feedback. If I heard you correctly, prior to the comments that we just heard from the audience, you would like us to get back to work and take a different direction.
I think that's what you heard.
Did I hear that correct?
Yes.
So the team and I would be looking to put forward a proposal which reinstates the Director of Music and Arts as well as the Director of Student Management, if I'm hearing you correctly.
Yes, I got everybody saying yes.
Okay, then we'll get back to work. That concludes the superintendent's report. Thank you.
And you didn't have any oral information for your report, that's it?
That was the gist of what we
Okay.
needed to talk about.
Okay.
You will be getting a lot more information as we reach the end of the year about year-end events, but that will be forthcoming.
Okay, thank you. Just want to make sure you had everything you needed. This brings us to board member reports. The first up is the Legislative Committee that met on May 5th. I was able to attend that. It's such a unique experience to be having our meetings in person and feel that energy of conversation. We had our legislative belief and principles for the federal and state education priorities, and we had some legislative meetings with some of our state representatives. The big upcoming piece is on June 9th. The Monroe County School Board Legislative Committee will be meeting with two of our regents, Turner and Norwood, and we will be having some conversation regarding programming and conversation about what can we do with information we've learned from COVID, our different types of learning, and, what kind of guidance can we get from the State Education Department about the abilities to possibly do remote learning for some of our students in combination maybe through a BOCES program or things of that nature. So that'll be our conversation with our Regents representatives. And that's all I have for legislative. Next up is the Monroe County School Board President's Dinner, which I also attended, same day. Some of the same conversation, but just conversation regarding budget votes and elections and what we can do to make sure our community had the information that they needed. And that's a more loosely meeting, that it doesn't have a formal agenda. It's just topics that folks need to bounce information off from one another. That was pretty much the evening's notes. Next up is the District Parent Partnership Forum. That was May 6th. And I was there. I can't remember if May was there. Sometimes when you do virtual, I can't remember who I see.
I wasn't there, sorry.
Basically, the group was just reviewing the year, meeting dates coming up. Mr. Whitmore was present to give us a budget presentation. And then they did their election of officers, and that was for DPAC. Next up is Multicultural Parent Advisory Council, MPAC, which met May 13th. I was not at that one.
I wasn't there either.
Okay, so.
Nurlan?
You want to add Nurlan?
Sure, we have our STEP program through RIT, and that involves students from grade 7 to 12, and they came to talk about some of the summer camps that will be made available, and in addition with professors from RIT who are teaching and giving students opportunities to experience different things in the STEMs. So that information was passed along to all of the impact members. We are trying to figure out a way to get that into students' hands so that parents of students who are already in the program, they know that these camps are being offered, but students who are transitioning from 6th to 7th grade, at 7th grade, that's when you'll have an opportunity to participate in STEP, and we want them to complete the application if they are interested. So we'll be sending that out as well.
Great, thank you. Next up is Henrietta Youth Asset Team.
It was their last meeting, but I failed to get a Zoom invitation, so.
Okay, all right. Next one is Equity Inclusion Steering Committee. I could not attend that one. And May looks like she was there.
Yeah, Diane Nguyen and the team from U of R presented the final draft that they will be bringing to the board. The draft is a culmination of all the goals that the separate subcommittees worked on, and they will be recommending to the board. So it was hard work, and it was interesting to see how 4 separate groups, they worked separately, but when they combine all the goals, they're all aligned, and it was interesting to see how we kind of like work separately, but we were thinking the same in terms of what we envisioned the equity journey for ROH, the next steps that they will be presenting to the board. I want to say the
22nd.
The 22nd.
June 22nd.
June 22nd. And Nurlan or Pat, they can add, if I forget.
No, I think you did a great job summarizing the fact that the groups have been working on this for those who doesn't know, the committee is a large committee consisting of 50 individuals, again, similar to the Code of Conduct, has folks from all over, including parents and students. And we are now at this point where we can make some recommendations to the board in terms of our equity moving forward with that, since this is our 4 years. So it's been great.
It's been great work. All right. That brings us to our meeting recap and previews, unless anybody else has anything else. All right, we'll take the recap.
All motions carried. We are to give any and all suggestions or thoughts on the saved documents to Nurlan before the end of June. First read policies are moved to second. We'll hear more about the reinstatement of those positions in the near future, and our next meeting is on June 8th.
All right, great. Being no other business, I'll take a motion to adjourn, and I get it from Mr. O'Brien and Mrs. LaPlaca. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Good. Have a good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming.